Welcome. Let's do it. Okay. Sorry about last week. I've been busy. Had a lot of work, and so. But I didn't want to. I actually have still a lot of stuff to do. But I said I'm gonna do this talk because it was on my schedule today. So I'm gonna do it, and it's kind of late. I came back from a thing I had. So welcome. The question is: are you an expert already, or are you a beginner? And we've talked about a lot of, I guess, advanced stuff before. The last couple of weeks we've talked about advanced stuff. And so today I thought we'd talk about some fundamentals. And this is what this talk is about. The title is a little bit tongue-in-cheek. So, okay? Because, as one of my mentors says, he says fundamentals are not everything. They are the only thing. And this is so true. This is so true. Really, any problem in your business, in your life, in your relationships, and the reason I talk, I guess, about like business and then also relationships and also life is because really it's all one thing. And it's crazy to think about it. You can't be mediocre at something and then be a star at something else. It just doesn't work that way. A lot of people who are successful, you find that they're successful at a lot of things because it's a formula. It's a formula of discipline. It's a formula of consistency. It's a formula of perseverance. All these things come together to create a measure of success. Now, you don't have to be a star at everything you do. As a matter of fact, you are not going to be able to be a star at everything you do, but you'll be effective, and that's part of fundamentals. So when we think about fundamentals, you know that word, that root, that prefix funda, like foundation, right? Or fundamentally, all these, these are sort of the beginnings, right? Like a house. A house is built on a solid foundation, right? So the same thing is true in your life. The same thing is true in your business. And since I'm involved in business and I'm doing a lot of business, and a lot of the people who watch me are clients of mine or prospects of mine or people who like to learn more about this, like to learn more about what I learn, and then I talk about it that way, okay? So these are the most important things. And it's so easy to get caught up in the advanced stuff. And the reason that I titled this, Are You an Expert or Are You a Beginner? Is because that has to do with our mentality. Do I have an expert mentality? Right? Do I have a mentality that is, oh, I already know, or I have a degree, right? I have a couple of degrees myself. But that doesn't mean that we know. It's kind of weird if you think about it, how like college or certificates or education is set up. Like you go through this program and then you get to a point where you learned everything. If you know about anything, right? If you like cooking and you do a lot of cooking, or if you do, like a lot of my clients, who do home improvement, and they're really good at, I don't know, all the little things like tiling or carpentry or all these things, painting, all this. You know that there's a lot more about what your craft is, and every day you get better. How is it that the educational system has it set up so that we go through this path and then we are given this piece of paper and that's supposed to signify what exactly? It's sort of like a made-up thing, right? 4-year degree. Why 4? Why not 6? Why not 2? Why not 20? Right? It's kind of like arbitrary. And it is arbitrary because, as we know, the educational system is a little messed up. And as many of you are aware of this, some of you guys are not. And I do have a question for you. If you're not going to be a lawyer or a doctor or something like that is regulated by the government, why are you in college? That's my question for you. But we can talk about that. Oh, by the way, don't forget, I'm going to try to make this short, but I do want to stay for a Q&A a little bit after the talk. It is kind of late, But if anybody wants to have any questions or wants to ask me questions at the end, I would like to entertain them. I've had great discussions. Those Q&As are not posted, and I don't and I share stuff that I don't share in the regular talk. So, and a lot of times I go more in depth or more specific, and it's interactive. So you guys can interact with me. If anybody wants to stay, I welcome those questions. So stay, because you'll get a lot of information that I'm not gonna post it. So it's not like you can be like, oh, I'll just watch it later. A lot of people watch my videos later, but that won't post those. Okay, so so definitely that's number one, right? Foundation. So when we talk about fundamentals, what are the things that we're talking about? Well, we're talking about things that have to do with mostly mindset. Okay? Now, when we think about mindset, and again, this is not the only thing, because also there are fundamentals in business, right? There are fundamentals in marketing, there are fundamentals in distribution, there are fundamentals in constraints. There's a great, oh, look at that, it's right here. Oh, by the way, can you guys tell my tower just grew a lot bigger? I actually got some requests about sharing some of the things that I have here. I'll share some things are secret, I can't share them. But I'll share some of these. This is a great book. This is by Eliyahu Goldratt, and this is the Theory of Constraints. And actually, this is very cool because it was dictated through I think it was the telephone, in Hebrew, in modern Hebrew, and it was transcribed to English by this other person. And so that's kind of an interesting little thing. But it's got some great things. Again, more talking about a specific thing about constraints. Here, I'll share a little tip. Let's see. So this is cool. So we're talking about constraints here real quick. So once these are defined, constraints, we can describe the next steps in two different ways. One in which we're using a terminology, a system that we're trying to improve, right? So we define what we're trying to improve. And the other, using the terminology of the improvement process itself, how we improve it. It's genius. So anyways, I won't get into this. But what I'm saying is that there are fundamentals, there are foundations to the house, be your business, be whatever it is, your life, your decision making, and then all those things have foundations on it. Okay, but a lot of it does have to do with mindset, and I'm bringing that sort of out. I'm highlighting that because this is a problem for so many people, and I find myself in all kinds of situations where I'm like, wow, like really, this is not that difficult. But it's because you get to the point where you've struggled enough and you've accomplished some things, and you sort of have that fundamentals. For example, when basketball players train, I know that what is his name? One of Michael Jordan's trainers, coaches, not trainers, coaches. I think it was Jackson. He got them to do like basic passing, which is a bounce pass, in all the trainings. Why? Because that's fundamentals. You can't ever get too good at those. I think I've mentioned this before. If any of you guys are into karate, you know that the difference between a white belt and a black belt are not any of the moves. Actually, a white belt, a beginner, and a black belt, a so-called expert, actually know the same moves. The only difference is mastering them. That's the only difference. So that's why it is so cool and so important to get out of the expert mentality. You're not an expert. Once you get into an expert mentality, oh yeah, I have a degree in that. Oh yeah, I know about that. I'll never forget this. I had a friend, and he was asking me, oh, okay, well, what kinds of things do you do? So I told him, and he's like, oh yeah, I do that myself. And he pulled out his phone and showed me, and it's like, and that was cool. And it's like me with my clients. A lot of my clients, for example, one of the clients that I'm working with, he's a painter, and he does a lot of cool stuff around the house, right? In houses, in commercial stuff. And and he's like, and I'm like, oh, okay, so what do you do? So he shows me what I can't go to him like, oh yeah, I painted this wall. Like, well, yeah, maybe I could figure it out. I could go to Home Depot and figure it out. But it's not the same, right? It's not the same to be painting every day, to be thinking about colors, to be thinking about shades. I saw this really interesting thing about not picking colors for your house or something at sunset, because your eye will perceives colors differently when the light is that low, right? And so it's kind of a cool thing. So these are fundamentals. So mindset, man, this is such a huge thing. So we don't want to be an expert, right? We want to learn, continually learn. So let's talk about one of those. One of the cornerstones of success is that humility. Humility. But it's not just humility, it's humility in action. Humility in action. So it's not anybody that I've ever talked to, they all say they're humble. And if you would have asked me, I would have said, yeah, I'm pretty humble. Right? But at the same time, we show how humble we are. And I can tell you, I was not humble. And I'm not saying I'm humble now. I'm just saying I was like really like very, very full of pride. I was one of those people that I would walk into a store and never ask anybody where something was if I didn't know. I would just go through the store, try to find it. And that was really a little bit of a reflection of some emotional insecurities and weird things that I had going on, but also pride. I was like, I didn't want to admit to somebody else, look, I don't know where this is, can you help me out? And so this is very important, because this gets us out of this expert zone and gets us into the learning zone. So when people tell you, or when you tell yourself, yeah, I'm humble, think about this. When you had a question, did you ask someone? Or did you just say, oh, I'm going to figure it out? Oh, if you wanted to learn something, did you take a course? Did you go to a conference? Did you read a book? Did you research it? Or did you go, oh, I'm sure nobody knows about that? You see what I'm saying? So the humility is demonstrated not by your words, but by your actions. By the same token, you might have somebody, let's bring Michael Jordan, since we're talking about Michael Jordan. We have somebody that, Michael Jordan was a very famous trash talker in the court. He would say, I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to completely obliterate you. And one of the reasons a lot of people say that he did that is to sort of put himself on a place where, well, now I have to deliver it, right? Now I have to. I told him I was going to destroy them. Well, now I'm better, I better bring the goods, right? But inside, with his coaches, with his trainers, he always did everything they said. Even he says, there's a biography, and that he says he would do it even if he didn't think it was the right thing to do. He was like, well, I'm not sure this is really the right, but he would do it, right? That's humility in action. We show by our actions that we're humble, okay? And so that's one of the things. Now, all these fundamentals, I'm gonna say just one more thing, and then we're gonna do a Q&A. All those fundamentals have one thing in common. They're very simple to explain. I just explained it to you. I mean, there's nothing else about that. But yet there is a whole world and a whole complexity of application at every possible turn in your life, at every possible thing that you do. Really. And so the problem is that as soon as I say it, I'm sure a lot of people were listening to the talk and they were just, they'll just scroll down. I know that. We all know that. That's the point. But think about it. How many people know how to lose weight? Right? Well, basically what do you have to do? You have to eat well and exercise. If you were to make a poll, if you were to make a survey about how many people in the world know those things, or let's say how many people in the US know, I think you would find 70, 80, 90% of the people say, yeah, you gotta eat right and exercise. So everybody's an expert, right? At knowing how, right? But there's like, it's something like 70%, I think I heard, of people in the US are overweight. So how is it that everybody's an expert, but so many people are overweight? It's because it's about doing it and being consistent with it. This is one of the, like, it's so crazy, like, it's so mind-boggling that it's so simple, but yet we won't do it. And people ask me for help all the time. They say, Gabe, can you help me with this? And I say, okay, I can help you, but you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it because most people don't do it. And so I'll tell you, very simple thing, just to, to get this going for you. Pick one thing. This is your practical application of this concept that we're talking about on mindset. Of course, I can discuss this topic of mindset for hours and hours, but like I said, I don't want to make it long. We just picked one aspect of fundamentals, which was mindset. Then we picked one aspect of mindset, which was humility in action. And then while we're picking one, how do we do this? Well, we got to force ourselves to do it. This is really another fundamental, which is willpower, right? But we want to be consistent. Do you know that if you did something consistently, you would literally rewire your brain? Your brain will change completely because it will know about one thing that it does always. Now, your brain already does a lot of things always, and I'm sure you can think of things that you always do, like you eat, you always sleep, and those things are so ingrained in you, so that your brain pushes you to do it. And so wouldn't it be wonderful for your brain to push you with the same kind of perseverance, with the same kind of pull and gravity and impetus to do something that you was good for you, that brought you wealth, or brought you health, or brought you happiness? I mean, that would be great. A lot of people, they're pulled into smoking, and they're miserable in minus 10-degree weather out there smoking, and it's funny because like the ads back in the day would say, would feature the cowboy, riding, and he's free, right? And he has the cigarette, he's smoking, and he's like, oh, he's the freest man in the world. Well, those guys are smoking on their smoking breaks because they have to take a break to smoke, and they're out there in the freezing cold, smoking. They don't look very free to me, right? So that's what you want. You want to be consistent, not about a bad habit. You want to be consistent about a good habit because it has the same kinds of repercussions, but in the positive. So, for example, I'll tell you my thing. This is my personal thing. I do this every single day. And if I go to bed, like tonight, I already did it today, but if I go to bed, for example, and I hadn't done it, I will wake up and I do it. And it's 20 push-ups. I'll do at least 20 push-ups every single day. And I have a long streak of that. And I can't turn it, but it's over there. So, and this is something, and so my brain is sort of like already, and so this is crazy how much something so simple like that could literally like change the way your brain functions, because your brain knows that there's one thing, it knows how to be consistent about something. And so when you know how to be consistent about something, you can choose to be consistent at something else, maybe something more important. And so I wanted to share that with you. Consistency, man, is the key. Now, a lot of people say, well, Gabe, 20 push-ups, that's nothing. I could do 100. Well, awesome. But this isn't about the number. This is about consistency. You see, if you're going to climb the Mount Everest, it's not about running for a mile. It's about taking one step at a time until you make it to the top. And the last step before you get to that summit and you get to see that beautiful sight is the same distance or the same value as the very first step when you maybe went out of your apartment or house to take a plane to the Himalayas, for example. It's the same. It has the same value. It got you the same, it got you closer by the same distance. And so this is the problem, that we don't see into the future like that. We sort of like very, especially in this society, very instant gratification. It's like, I want it now. If I can't have it now, then it's not good. And there's nothing that is worthwhile that is instant. Nothing. There's nothing. So this is why mindset is an important thing, and this is why the fundamentals, and not being an expert, but being a beginner, right? A great master over 2,000 years ago said something like, you have to be like a child. You have to be, that's what he meant. To be like a child. A child is not busy thinking, oh, I already know this. Well, hopefully, and maybe we have some kids nowadays that they're thinking that. But a child is naturally humble and naturally asking questions and childlike in his learning and experiences and just accepting things and going, oh, okay, that's cool. I want to do that. How do you do this? How do you do that? Okay, so let's jump to the Q&A section, and I hope you guys enjoy this talk. Please stay if you want to hear some awesome stuff and you want to ask me some questions about this, maybe other things about mindset. And if you are watching this as a recording and you missed the Q&A, then make sure you tune in next time, okay? We'll see you guys later.